Hello everyone, Argsy here. Welcome along to our guide on using Courseplay. In today's video, we're going to take a look at combine unloading, and in particular, using auger wagons, trailers or trucks to chase the combine around the field and keep it unloaded and keep it moving, or to use the combine to self-unload into a truck or trailer at the edge of the field. Now we are using Courseplay version 8.0.0.5, a recent update which had a few bug releases, no new big features or anything like that added to it. So it's still pretty much the same as we've been using throughout our guides so far. So without further ado, let's jump up into the combine. We'll get that up and moving with the course set up, and then we'll have a look at how to use the augers or trailers on the field before having a look at the self-unload options. So we've got the combine here up and running. It's a 3-headland course, obviously starting on the outside. First take the headlands off, and then we're just going up and down in the middle of the field. Didn't bother showing that because we've looked at a few courses already through these series. If you've got this far, you should already know how to do some things. But we are going to jump in here into the settings for this vehicle. So if we click here on the Graen 6900, which is our combine, it's going to bring up the vehicle settings for Courseplay. And now under the vehicle settings here, you can see there's a few different options as we scroll down for combines, and one of the ones we're going to look at here is call unloader at, and if we hover over that, set at 80%, this is the fill level the harvester will get to when it will call the unloader. So basically at 80% full, it will say, I need an auger wagon, I need a truck, I need a trailer to unload into. I've only got 20% capacity left, so we're just going to bump that down to 70. I just find, depending on the size of the field, it can take a few seconds for the auger wagon to figure out a path, and sometimes you'll just find that by the time it's figured out how to get to the combine, it's actually run enough to get that last 20% in it, and it's actually full. So having that set at a lower value, it will go down to, 60% is the minimum, and up to 90. So again, depending on what you're harvesting, if it's a low yielding crop, you might want it a bit higher. If it was something like corn, which might yield a little higher, you might want to go right down to 60, but we're running that at 70. It might also depend on the hopper capacity of your combine. And that is about all we have there. Now, we'll get to this later. This is our self-unload option there. We'll take a look at that. We've also got this option here to stop while unloading. Now, we'll leave it running, so basically this will mean when the combine wants to unload and the auger is out, that our tractor will run alongside it and the combine will keep moving. If you'd rather have it stop and unload in one spot, that's entirely up to you, personal preference, but Courseplay is smart enough to unload on the go. So we've got those all set up. There's nothing else really we need to worry about here. These are all basic settings, nothing really at all to have to worry about in that one. So let's leave that running. We're going to jump out of there and go and jump back into the auger. So here we are, we've got the T7 running the Demco grain cart, and we're just going to pull in here so we start off inside the field. Now there's not actually any course to create. All we're doing here is specifying the field we're working in and telling it that it wants to go and unload the combine, or if it is a loader. So in this instance, we've got a combine. A loader might be a wheel loader, or possibly the roper mouse or something like that to load beets up out of, if you're doing that out of the field. But obviously we're going to leave this at the combine. Now we've got a few other settings here which we will have a look at, but first of all we want to click on the target there. We want to specify where our field is. We've got our field position set. It had already detected that. Target position doesn't matter too much, but I do like to have this set in the field and just know where it is. You can, if you were using a trailer, we'll just take a look at some of the other settings. Let's imagine you were just using a tractor with a trailer and you wanted to go and unload directly into a silo or something like that. You could actually go through here and tell it where you want it to go to. So I think we have a look. There's the farm silo for the main farm under here somewhere. See if we can find it. There you go, I think silo. I think that's our farm silo. So if you wanted to go and unload and dump that into the silo and you're using a trailer or a truck, you could get it to do that using the Giants unloader. That's using the Giants AI. You can also automate it with auto drive as well, but that is for another day. Once we start looking into auto drive, you can get into some of that really advanced interaction, that integration that can happen with auto drive and Courseplay. But for now, we're just going to leave that there. We're unloading the combine. As we said before, we've set our field position and our target position, and we're going to leave that as deactivated for the time being. So let's just press start job. That is going to now sit there and wait to be unloaded. Now, I was getting to the empty when over. Basically, that is the fill level the auger wagon will get to when it will go and empty out into whatever you're wanting it to empty out onto, or of course the silos. Now in our instance, we've actually got a truck parked there on the edge of the field, which is doing dual purpose. First up, it is for our auger wagon to unload into on the edge of the field. So when it's full, or when it gets to 85%, whichever comes first, it will go and unload directly into the truck automatically. It will detect that being parked next to the edge of the field and go and unload the wagon into it, which is fantastic. So we've really got nothing else to do now. We're just going to wait for the combine. So give us the call, tell us that it needs to go and be unloaded, and then we'll have a look at the offsets left, right, and forwards and backwards, which you can see here, which you can tweak around basically to change the position of the grain cart relative to the auger on the combine. As you might know, different combines have different augers, might depend what width header you've got on the front. There's a few things which can change the configurations you might want to have set there for those offsets. So let's just wait, we'll see. The combine can't be too far away from being full. We'll tab over there and have a look, and then we'll see if this tractor will come over and unload us. Now we're just catching the combine as it's cutting out one of the corners to go around there, and we're actually at 68% full. And if you remember, we set the call the unloader at 70%. So hopefully in just a few moments, once we get over that 70% mark, we should see the auger wagon starting to move and coming to catch up to the combine and getting ready to unload. Now there was one other setting that I didn't actually talk about, which we will just bring up and have a quick look at as well. So one of the other settings here was to unload on the first headland. We've got that deactivated. Basically, as you can see there, it will call the unloader on the first headland even when he has to drive outside of the field. So if there was no space on the edge of the field, we've got reasonable space around here, we could have used that setting. The auger wagon could have driven next to the combine. But if you were using a field that had lots of trees around it, maybe some fences, or was a lot narrower, you'd leave that deactivated, which is what it is at the moment. And basically when it's deactivated, it will create a pocket before calling the unloader. So basically the combine would get to as full as it can, and then it would cut in. So that's probably why we're seeing at this stage we've got to 72% and it hasn't called anything yet, because it's waiting to have enough space for the unloader to get to. So I imagine when we get around to the auger wagon, to the grain cart, it might actually start calling it then. So we'll wait and see what happens as we get closer. Now we can see the combine has put on its beacons. We've got over that 80% threshold, which will activate it. And we're probably actually going to see the combine will put this auger out as we drive past the truck. It shouldn't stop though. It won't unload into the truck. It should just carry on going. Now hopefully we've left enough space between the grain cart and the end of the field to be able to turn in there. As you can see, it moves into the next headland, but I'm hoping that as we get to this point and the field's now opened up enough, that the combine will call the grain cart, and the grain cart is going to react to that. Just wait and see here. Just spin around. It's actually worked out quite well that this field is 90%, or the combine is 90% full on one lap around the field. Let's just have a look. Spin around there and see we've got our worker, and just about on time they're now driving over. So I'm going to tab back into that tractor, just have a look at that. Alright, and there you go. Now we're unloading right next to the combine. As you can see though, we are pretty close here to the header, so we want to probably offset that to the left, just to move it a bit further away. We can probably go about a metre over, and there you go. That's given us a little bit of more space between the header. Now we're running the biggest header that this combine will take, and the auger's not really long enough for it. Courseplay's tried to put the auger output right in the middle of the grain cart. Now you can obviously adjust forward and backwards, so that should move it forward now. There you go. Combine was empty, so we didn't actually see the impact of that, but you can tweak around, play around with those settings till your heart's content, till everything's fine. Once you've got it set though for the first time, so long as you're not changing your equipment settings or your equipment setup in any way, then you probably don't need to change anything at all, so long as it works, and things will run. So we're 45% full. We're going to let the combine go around probably a couple more times, get it back up to that call mark. In fact, it should this time call us when it's 70% full, rather than waiting for a full headland pass to be completed. So we've got to 47% full, and the auger wagon's already on its way over here, which is impressive. It's actually come earlier than we asked it for. It's almost going to be here by the time we get to the 70% mark, which is what our call was. Which, look, I'm not going to complain if it's going to get here earlier rather than later. That keeps the combine moving more. Less downtime in your harvest if the combine's running, seems to be the key. So just see that there, it's going to maneuver into position, get turned around, and basically be sitting in front of us. Now one of the impressive things here is to watch how the auger wagon and the grain cart will follow the combine around a curve, even right to the point where it changes from the second headland into the third headland pass. If we don't run the combine out of canola before then, let's just wait and see. Down to 4,000, 3,000. Might actually run out before we get there, but the auger wagon is smart enough the way it uses the Courseplay course to basically follow. You can see a little bit of that effort there as it got around the corner, so you don't have to worry about it losing contact, losing touch too much as the combine changes direction. So that's all working pretty well. Just jump back into the grain cart. I just want to see how full that is, and we'll just wait until it gets to the 85% threshold, or it's completely full, to see it going empty into the truck. So there we go, sitting here at 72%, so I expect we'll wait for the combine to do one more lap of the field, and then it will be ready to be full. Probably get it up to 100% just about by the time it does that, rather than getting to the 85%. Like I said, if it gets to 85% and then the combine finishes unloading, it will empty into the truck. If the combine's still unloading, it won't drive off at 85%. It will wait to get to whatever the combine can put in. If that's 100%, that's when it'll go and empty into the truck. But let's just wait and see. Let this get finished and do the last little bit of the load into here before we take a look at how the combine is able to unload on the edge of the field directly into a truck. Well, our tractor's now starting up at about the same spot the combine got to last time, and now I'm going to go and drive and get in a position to basically get it unloaded. So I'm guessing the combine's probably around that 50% full again. See how well it actually manages that, clipping the crop a little bit, but fortunately no crop damage. Basically it will follow very closely along the edge of the crop and against the plants, basically the unharvested area of the crop. And we'll get into a position now to be lined up for when the combine gets around. There we go, augers swinging out, and we're going to be starting to get filled up again. This is going to be a good example of how the auger wagon will follow the header around and not actually cause any issues. It does get a little bit behind. That might be a case of wanting to push it further forward, but it will get sorted out and catch up into the right spot in just a second. And there we go. So we're now at 90% full. As soon as the combine's empty or we hit 100%, we should go and unload into the truck. So we're going to get to 100% full. There we go. Auger wagon now full. I'm going to get backed up and we should see it pull up here alongside the truck and unload directly into it. So let's just see how it figures this out. It's going to go the whole way around the truck. Cut it pretty fine there. Let's just see what happens. Here we go. Maneuvering its way around. Obviously, depending where it is positioned on the field, it will probably come from another angle or make a different maneuver just where we were. But it's going to get up here beside. And in just a second we should see the auger wagon. There we go. Auger opening out. A little bit of a bump there as it did. But it's going to get over the truck and unload into it. Now if you were wanting to, you could actually have this truck set up on a load and deliver for using the Giants unloader. I've had limited success or varying success with that, but you could be running that on a loop. Of course, if you're using auto drive as well, which we will look at in a future video, you could have this truck sitting here on auto drive, and as soon as it's full it would head off and deliver the crop to whatever point you were sending it to. So a few different ways to do it, but let's let this finish emptying out. Then we're actually going to turn the auger wagon off, park it away a little bit, and we're going to use the self-unload on the combine to come and dump the rest into the truck. So there we go. Auger wagon's smart enough to figure out exactly where it needs to go with the 3 different fill points in this hopper bottom trailer. So yeah, pretty smart way to do it. Basically, I don't need to be here. This field could probably just about be harvested and delivered to a sell point without my input at all, which is fantastic. Well, as you can see, we've reset the field and we've actually reverted back to Courseplay version 8.0.0.4 to use the self-unload function for the combine. We tried it, I did record the whole and finish the whole of the field off and tried multiple different ways to get the unloading to work using version 5 of Courseplay 8.0.0.5, but it seems that something's changed between the 2 versions, which has caused a bug to stop it from working. But we've just tested it, we've just successfully unloaded down there into the truck, and everything seems to be working. So I'll very quickly go through the settings that we had to set for it. It's very simple. If we come into the combine, we click here on the 6900, come into the vehicle settings for the combine, scroll down here to the combine settings. We did see it earlier, we've got combine self-unload activated. So basically the combine's going to get to about 99% full, almost 100% full, and then it should go and unload itself into the truck. So we'll ride along here, we'll get just a little bit closer to that 99% full. We'll cut back to the video and we'll have a look to see exactly what happens and just demonstrate to you how the self-unload will work, and we'll discuss a little bit more there before we wrap things up for this guide on how to use Courseplay. Alright, we're heading around the top of the field. 87% full beacon lights are on, and the combine's getting close to having a full hopper. We can see the truck right down there on the bottom of the field, so we couldn't actually be any further away from the truck if we wanted to, as we're going to get around to being full. It'll be interesting to see whether the combine wants to turn around or carry on around the edge of the field to get down to the truck. We'll just keep an eye on this as it gets a little bit further. What we should be seeing is it getting to 99% full, and it will empty out. Now, just a quick little point, I recreated this course and didn't bother doing the shut corners, just wanted to get this done as quickly as possible. I was getting a bit frustrated with it not working, but pleased to be able to report that it is working here in this version. So we should see as we get a bit closer now, 97%, not too much longer, combine will get to pretty much 99%, 98 there. It will tick over just a couple more percent, 99, and you can see it slowing down. Not quite going to get to 100, it's about 70 litres short, but there we go. It's stopped, it's lifting its header up. Now for some reason it drives forward and doesn't back out of the crop. If you don't have crop damage on, it doesn't matter, but there we go. It's now going to follow around the edge of the field, of the unharvested section, and it should go and find its way down to the truck to unload. So we'll let it get its way down there and see this unload. Now obviously not the most efficient use of a combine to go and unload this way. It's not too bad when you're not on the headlands, because if you park the truck on the same side you're working from, it doesn't have to go the whole way around the field. It can just drive from the centre across to it. Worst case, it might have to go a full length of the field, so bear that in mind when you are using this setting. But if you don't have an auger cart, or you don't want to have that running, this is an easy way to do it as well. But yeah, combine's on its way down there. We'll wait to let it get around to the truck and get its auger out and unload. It's moving away now from the edge of the fruit and heading over towards where the truck is. It's going to calculate where its auger is, make sure its header doesn't hit into the trailer. It's very tight, as we talked about earlier. This is quite a short auger compared to the size of the header, but there we go. Auger's opening out, and it's going to go and unload from the front first. Now this is exactly the same as how the auger wagon did this. Once that front hopper gets full, it's going to back up and get there into the, well, it's going to go all the way back to the third hopper. I think what it's actually going to do here is back and then recalculate which hopper it needs to empty out into. Just wait and see what happens here. This is definitely what it did earlier. It's going to go forward again, open up the auger and unload it into the next hopper. This might do this 3 times because this is only a small hopper here in the middle. Not sure what the capacity of it is. Might be about 10,000 litres, but there we go. Proof of concept of how the self-unload function for a combine will work when you're using that on Courseplay. Now we could automate the truck and have that running on an auto drive course, or using the Giant's AI workers. Like I said earlier, it's a little bit hit and miss, but you could have that run off and go and do its own thing. And there we go, combine's empty, and it will now find its way. It's just pausing and having a think, how do I get back to the last waypoint I was working on? It's going to figure out the most efficient way to do that. Looks like it might carry on heading around the field in a clockwise direction. Hopefully not going to cut straight through the field. Sometimes it will. And it does seem to be the case here because of how far it is away. It is going to drive right through the centre of the field and just take the path of least resistance. So once again, not as authentic, but this was something that happened in Courseplay in previous versions, particularly when you got in large fields and I had to try and calculate the distance that it had to travel. So there we go, proof of concept that the combine self-unload does work and how to set that up. Obviously also a good example of working on developer versions of mods such as Courseplay and Auto Drive. I've already reported this as a bug on GitHub, so feedback that it was working, it's not working, and I've tested it through the 2 versions and discovered which ones it's working, and so hopefully that can give the Courseplay team some information and they can help resolve that, so that in a future release the self-unload option is re-enabled. So there we go, 2 different ways to use combines and to unload them in the field using an auger wagon trailer or a truck, and have that run around and follow the combine, or use the self-unload on the edge of the field. So as always, I hope you found that useful and informative. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.